Keeping up with our theme of creepy things caught on camera, today's video has a little bit of everything. Menacing identified humanoids prowling outside a house at night, malevolent evil shadows, disembodied screams in the dead of night, an eerie forest encounter with an uncanny stranger that will have you checking over your shoulder, and perhaps one of the most convincing pieces of Bigfoot footage ever captured.
But first, I want to tell you about how much I've been enjoying my new Raycons. Raycons everyday earbuds are the perfect companion for when I'm watching spooky videos at home and want to be fully immersed. Their latest model is better than ever, with a 32-hour battery life that means I rarely ever think about having to charge them. The real game changer for me though is the active noise cancellation. It's really something you've got to experience yourself, but trust me, when you're watching a spooky video with noise cancellation on, well, let's just say it's a fear like nothing I've experienced before. And this isn't something you have to splash the cash on. Raycons start at just half the price of other premium audio brands, which is usually a difficult price point to find active noise cancelling at. They've really helped me feel motivated for a great start to 2025, and watching these spooky videos with my Raycons, I'm feeling more inspired than ever to keep searching for the best videos to share with you on Top 5s. They're also just really pleasant to look at, and the sleek looking case is often enough to convince me to get my Raycons on and start ghost hunting online. I can get lost in the online world of spooky videos for hours, not just because of the battery life, but of how comfy they are too. If you want to really immerse yourself in some spooky videos to start the year, click the link in the description or go to buyraycon.com/top5s to get up to 15% off site-wide. That's right, you'll get up to 15% off just by going to buyraycon.com/top5s. I can't wait for you to try out the active noise cancellation whilst watching our videos. Let's get into it. Hit those lights, sit back, and enjoy.
Strange creature caught on camera. We'll kick this video off with an absolutely terrifying clip captured a few years ago by Richard Grebenick, lurking on his property somewhere in the USA, and to this day it remains pure nightmare fuel. Richard starts recording after he already must have spotted whatever it was prowling around outside his home, and frantically called his friend to let him know, "You're not going to believe this. I've got it on video now. People think I'm nuts. Well, I've got it now," suggesting that this isn't the first time the creature has paid him a visit. At 1:37, we first catch a glimpse of this something, a pale humanoid-like figure with no discernible features, crawling around his backyard and then swaying unsettlingly. Despite Richard saying it can't see or hear him, we're not too sure. Over the next couple of minutes, the creature crawls from left to right, as if surveying the house, almost like a stealthy predator. At one point, even being intelligent enough to retreat backwards into the darkness and out of the camera lens's range, where it presumably continues to stalk him, hidden in the night for over a minute and a half of disquiet. Reappearing again, it has that same awkward gait as it approaches nearer, scaring Richard so much that he asks his friend to pray with him. Yet whilst praying with his eyes closed, Richard doesn't realise that the creature has gotten even closer. Opening his eyes, he's faced with the humanoid, crying out, "Oh God, it came back," as the horrific being lurks only 20 feet away, crouch walking towards him and swinging its long slender arms in torment. As his friend prays more fervently, Richard remarks that it knows something's going on, and it gradually starts to retreat before disappearing completely into the night. Unfortunately, Richard hasn't posted any updates since the night of the confrontation, so we can't tell if he encountered the menacing humanoid again, but we did come across a lot of similarly disturbing experiences. Here are just a few of them. In Michoacan, Mexico, in the 1930s, my grandfather remembers when he was young, his father and uncle caught a pale-skinned humanoid with black eyes. It cried like a child, and they didn't know what to do, so they let it go. But cattle mutations began happening in the area, which prompted them to set traps. But they never saw it again. Another comment recounts how, as a teenager, a friend and I ran into a creepy pale humanoid inside the sewers of Moore Park, California. How that thing sways from side to side is exactly what we saw. Finally, an experience much the same as Richard states, back in the 1970s in rural Oklahoma, my grandparents claimed to have seen a humanoid figure very similar to this one, hunting on their property. They said it would get within 30 feet of the house before retreating back into the tree line. Have you had any experiences like this? Let us know down in the comments below. Monstrous ghostly shadow. When Reddit user rcalm_cap_7292 began experiencing strange phenomenon in their home, they and their partner decided to set up a series of security cameras to see if they could catch something on camera. Here's what they witnessed. Settling down for the night, the couple are relaxing on their phones whilst a movie plays on the television. What appears to be stars through the open door is actually a laser light projector, which they bought to try and establish if the eerie shadows they'd glimpsed around their house would be any easier to spot. Out in the hallway, the lasers are suddenly blotted out by a menacing black shadow that lingers for a full 10 seconds, startling the uploader, who drops her phone in alarm, before just staring at the shadow that moves away. The uploader has noted that they do own cats, yet both of them were on the bed at the time, so couldn't have walked past or stood in front of the light projector, and neither was there anybody else in the house. One Redditor pointed out that the television appears to glitch as the shadow appears, its screen going motionless, before glitching again just before the video cuts out. Whilst another related their own experience. Sometimes I get these in my bedroom too, just hovering over my bed when I am in the crossroads between awake and asleep. Yet, they don't believe it to be malevolent. Who or what was in the forest? YouTuber Project Amber vlogs his adventures living out of his ambulance-turned-camper alongside his spaniel pup, as the duo travel across the UK and Europe. Yet he captured something in this video a little creepier than he normally encounters. Check it out.
A minute ago I could hear like really loud moaning, like just booming across the mountains. So I've come down to where I could hear it. I got to this old well and it stopped. I mean, that thing's wild freaky. It's like something out of The Ring. But just as soon as I got here, just from over there, there's no track or anything, it's just wood. This girl appeared, dressed like kind of like a monk, no shoes, no hair. So I said bonjour and that, and she responded. I asked if she was okay, but she didn't respond then. She just carried on walking. So I carried on a bit and thought I better double check. Went to go and find her again. She's gone. So up that way, that's where my van is, and that goes to the road. But down where she went that way, there's nothing, and there's nothing for miles. Where did she go? I'm gonna leave.
What starts off as one of his normal vlogs, with the YouTuber shacked up in a mountain range in France, when his camper's fridge goes on the blink, soon becomes rather ominous when Lance, his dog, becomes fixated on something off camera. Creeped out, he jokingly asks what the dog is looking at before taking a look himself, but sees nothing out of the ordinary other than an old ground well. Forgetting all about it, he humorously recounts his childhood fears about the horror movie The Ring, which the well reminds him of, and the day ends without incident. The following evening, however, he is seriously freaked out when he begins to hear loud groaning in the area, and when he goes to find the source of the noises, he eerily follows it back to the old well. When he arrived, the moans completely stopped, but then out of nowhere appeared a girl, dressed kind of like a monk, with no hair and no shoes. Greeting her with a bonjour, she responded in kind, but then didn't acknowledge or answer when he asked if she was okay or had heard the strange noises, instead simply walking away. On his return to the camper, he thought he'd best double check on the stranger, but she disappeared, even though there was nothing in that direction for miles. He did manage to video a fleeting glimpse of her in the distance, where we can just make out a white veiled figure moving between a gap in the forest. Interestingly, he notes that Lance always runs towards anyone new and is excited to greet strangers. Yet in this instant, he was agitated and surprisingly docile, and kept fixating on the old well until they completely left the area. Creepily, he then goes on to explain that the last he saw of her, she was running in the direction of his camper. So as soon as he got back, they wisely packed up and left. Could this be a ghostly experience, or merely a bizarre encounter with an old stranger? The Freeman Bigfoot footage. In 1994, the late cryptozoologist Paul Freeman captured what many believe to be some of the most convincing footage of the elusive Bigfoot near the Blue Mountains in northeastern Oregon, USA. Passionate about obtaining truly conclusive evidence of the cryptid, Paul was an avid outdoorsman who spent a lot of his time in the Pacific Northwest's mountain regions, tracking, photographing, and videoing his investigations. In 1982, he reported sighting an 8-foot-tall creature in Washington state, covered in reddish-brown hair, and later claimed to have uncovered its trail of huge footprints, which he took plaster cast molds of. Experienced academic anthropologists Dr. Grover Kantz and Dr. Jeffrey Meldrum, both university researchers, were convinced that the casts were genuine, showing detailed dermal ridges and furrows like those found only on higher primates, and beyond the ability of anybody to fake. They surmised that the stride between the prints and their depth indicated the cryptid was more than 8 feet tall and weighed around 750 pounds, 340 kilograms. In the first part of the footage, Paul films a set of footprints in the forest, referring to them as some of the little one's tracks, despite them appearing to be around 9 feet long and deeply imprinted in the mud. Appearing humanoid, the prints are far too large and rounded for any human feet, and display the indentation of 5 large splayed toes. Reports of Bigfoot tracks actually predate the infamous ones recovered from the Patterson-Gimlin incident in 1967, as 9 years earlier, a road contractor working in California discovered a series of footprints and produced a series of casts that have later been hotly debated. Since then, numerous prints have been recorded across North America, averaging between 18 inches and 20 inches, with Freeman's being amongst the most detailed. After taking casts, Freeman ventures on, noting how he believed the creatures would sometimes use the lake bed for water, and again he comes across another series of quite distinct footprints, suggesting that there could even be one in the area. As he follows the prints, he narrates how he can hear the brush popping, as though something is clearing a trail through the undergrowth. And just as he reaches the crest of the trail, pans up to unexpectedly catch the cryptid lumbering along about 70 feet away. Reacting a lot calmer than we would to the encounter, Freeman remarks, "Oh, there he goes," as the huge creature casually picks its way amongst the underbrush. Losing sight of it for a few moments, the last he captures is it wandering into the distance, unsure of if it's even the same one or if there could actually have been 2 of them. Here's our own deep dive into the fascinating clip. It's estimated that the being stands between 7 and 8 feet tall, based on a comparison with the tall conifer tree it passes at the mark of 4 minutes 51 seconds, which was verified to be about 16 feet in height, and the torso appears barrel-shaped and broad-chested, with prominent shoulders and no discernible neck, a feature often attributed to Bigfoot reports. Looking closely, the limb proportions also appear to differ from those of a human. The arms are noticeably long, potentially reaching mid-thigh, which is atypical for human anatomy, but again, consistent with other sightings, as is the conical-shaped head. Despite appearing uniformly covered in either black or dark brown shaggy hair, there is no clear visibility of skin underneath or facial features such as eyes, ears, or a nose, differing from the Patterson-Gimlin footage, which brilliantly captures a pale face with flat nose and a prominent brow. The stride length appears to exceed that of any human, indicating a longer leg-to-body ratio than is typical, and this is most noticeable again as it passes in front of the conifer tree. As well as this, the posture is upright but slightly hunched forward, similar to how a gorilla moves when sometimes seen walking bipedal. When walking, the creature's weight appears to shift naturally and fluidly with each step, creating a heavy ground impacting motion that would be tough to imitate in a costume that would have needed tons of padding and unstable false legs to provide height, especially when the hoaxer would have had to walk their way across uneven, cluttered forest terrain. Experts in biomechanics and primatology have noted that certain aspects of the figure's movement, such as the pronounced swaying of the arms and aforementioned stride length, are quite difficult to dismiss outright as a human hoax, as they interestingly share similarities in gait with the Patterson-Gimlin creature. In an interview with Paul's son after his father's death, he recounted how he'd never really been a believer in Bigfoot until he saw both this footage and his father's reaction on the day. He rushed back, hollering for us all, the family, and he was pale, scared even, and I've never seen him like that. not even on the day he died. That was enough to make me a believer. We're pretty much convinced that Paul Freeman somehow captured evidence of the cryptid's existence that day in 1994. But we'd love to hear your theories on the footage below. Screams of a dogman? Staying in their RV high in the Sierras near Clipper Mills in California, a couple caught what they believed to be the spine-chilling screams of a Bigfoot or Dogman in the vicinity. Take a look.
Juno, what did you hear? What was that? What the fuck is that?
In July 2012, the couple's vehicle broke down as they were towing their boat to a nearby lake retreat, forced to stay the night on the side of the road due to there being no phone service or tools to fix the transmission, as well as being miles away from anywhere populated. The disturbing noises began at around 10 p.m. For nearly 20 minutes, a series of blood-curdling screams and deep bellows can be heard echoing off the mountains, some sounding distinctly wolf-like, while others carry a more anthropological resonance. Both witnesses sound terrified, as we would be. If being stuck all alone in the mountains at night isn't creepy enough, added to it are these disembodied, banshee-like wails. Even their two dogs are spooked, anxiously staring off into the dark and keeping quiet themselves, which the owners say was very strange behaviour for their usually boisterous animals. After a brief spell of silence, at 2 minutes 43, there is another thunderous series of screams, leading us to believe that whatever it is, it must have an impressive lung capacity to reach both the pitch and distance heard on camera, far surpassing that of any indigenous wolves or bears that some commentators claimed were the source. The sounds then become almost constant, convincing the cameraman that there may actually be two of the creatures out there, perhaps even communicating. Unsettlingly, the screams appear to be coming from different directions, as what they initially thought were just dogs have now moved location. Despite humorously quipping, as far as I know, I've never heard of a Sasquatch attacking or killing anybody, it's clear that the couple are troubled by the incessant unnatural cries, particularly given their predicament and it only being early in the night. Eventually shutting the camera off to conserve the battery, the couple provided an update on what happened after this, recalling how the screams continued for some time before becoming more sporadic, as whatever or whoever moved off down the valley, eventually ceasing a little after midnight, and thankfully the rest of the night passed without incident. We've tried to research the incident in case anyone else in the area reported similar experiences that night in 2012, but couldn't find any other accounts. However, California is notorious for Sasquatch encounters, with over 450 reported sightings, most notable being the ubiquitous Patterson-Gimlin footage, filmed near Bluff Creek. Interestingly, on account of the hound-esque howls, the couple noted that they've considered what they were hearing could have actually been a dogman, a cryptid often described as resembling a large bipedal wolf-like or canine figure, with sightings scattered across different North American states dating back to the late 19th century. One thing we know for sure, after watching this, we won't be venturing into the Sierras at night anytime soon.